Everybody. It's been a few days. I've been a little busy at my day job. I've had a couple of giant articles about cybersecurity I had to write this week. And I'm working on articles about organizing enterprise AI platforms and measuring ROI of AI. So there's stuff I could talk to you about. But the first thing I want to start talking about is some new jobs data that's been coming out. And it's top of mind for me because one of the editors I've been working for years has just been laid off, part of a bigger layoff process at the company that I do most of my work for. So a little worrisome, right? And I'm hearing some more indications that some budgets are being cut, also worrisome, and that strategies for what to do about Google Zero are a little lacking. Google Zero is where Google stops sending you web traffic, search traffic, right? So little worrisome. So things are starting to like close in, but also I have new work coming in. So I have new companies I'm working for, new stuff I'm writing. So it's it seems to be going okay. And I saw some interesting research about how there seems to be a productivity dilemma going on right now, or a measurement dilemma. So we have not seen huge increases to productivity over the last few decades, even though we've had all these huge technological advances, right, that are supposed to be labor saving. And they are labor saving, they do save labor, but they're not translating into productivity numbers. And they're also not translating into job losses. And I've talked about this repeatedly. We think that we're losing jobs, but we're not. Our unemployment rate is near record low. We're below 5%, which means we're at basically full employment. There's always going to be some people who are laid off, who don't have jobs because they're switching jobs, because they have issues, they're unable to relocate, they don't have the right mix of skills, or they have other things that they're working with. But for the most part, we're at full employment. Companies have trouble hiring enough people to do the stuff that they need to do. Despite all the headlines about this is the worst job market ever, we are at full employment, people. This it's this weird paradox where we think that there are no more jobs, but we're also at full employment. So anyway, AI and jobs. We've been seeing these two contradictory things happening. On the one hand, the technology executives are all saying jobs are going to disappear. AI is going to do all these tasks. We're not going to need people to do them. Stop learning stuff. You're right. New graduates can't get jobs anywhere because the AIs are taking all the entry level jobs, right? But the numbers aren't showing that. So the tech companies are saying this is going to happen. But even when you look at their own numbers, they're not supporting that. So Anthropic released this big report. I've talked about it before. And they're saying maybe 1% productivity gains as a result of AI. This is nothing. This is not going to move the job market in any way, shape, or form. And that's something that I've been thinking about, why is this happening? That doesn't mean that individual jobs won't go away. I mean, we'll have jobs shifting around. We don't have many elevator operators anymore, or telephone operators for that matter, right? Switchboard operators. We don't. A whole bunch of jobs are gone. But jobs as a whole are not gone. And I recently read about something called the Cowan paradox. And I will link to it in the description box down below. And this is basically a cousin of Jevons paradox. And Jevons paradox says that when something is cheaper, people don't spend less money on it. People spend more money on it. And you're like, why would they do that? It's cheaper, so you would spend less money. Isn't that obvious? And the answer is no, because as it gets cheaper, we're like, oh, we can buy more of it. And we do. So we might wind up spending as much or even more money on it than before because it's now cheaper than it was before. So we're spending more on it, but also because we can do it instead of doing some other thing that we're doing that now costs more money. So, say, for example, if restaurants became 10 times cheaper, right? Not only would you eat out 10 times more often, but because you could now afford it, but you would also spend less money on groceries because you're eating out more often, which means you can afford to eat out even more. Because not only is your restaurant budget going further, but you're also moving your groceries budget over to the restaurant budget. And this is Jevons paradox, and this is happening in companies right now. AI makes stuff cheaper. So companies not only do more of that thing that's cheaper, but they move budget over into it and wind up spending even more money at it. And Cowan's paradox is a related thing that says that time-saving devices, labor-saving devices, don't save you any time, they don't save you any labor. And this is based on a book called, let me look that up, More Work for Mother by Ruth Schwartz Cowan, which was published in 1983. And basically, she looked at how much time women were spending on housework before labor-saving devices like vacuum cleaners were invented and after. And the same thing happened as with Jevons paradox, but with regard to labor. So say, for example, you take the vacuum cleaner. Before the vacuum cleaner, you would move all your furniture, roll up the rug, take the rug outside, hang it on something, and then beat it with a stick. This was like a huge amount of work. It would take you a long time. You usually needed help of a few people to do this. And you might do it like once or twice a year. And the rest of the time, you just lived with the rug being dirty, right? Because you're not going to take it outside every day and beat it. Like, what are you, a crazy person? And then vacuum cleaners were invented. And now you could vacuum every day. And people vacuumed every day because they could. The labor involved in cleaning the rug became dramatically lower. So we clean the rug more often, and we wound up, like in total, spending the same amount of time or more amount of time on cleaning. Now you could say, well, yes, but if she was only cleaning the rug, every 6 months before, I mean, with a vacuum cleaner, if she only cleans the rug once every 6 months, she'll be saving a ton of labor because instead of like several hours, she can do it in half an hour or something, right? Um, and that's not what happened. Instead of doing it once every 6 months, people started doing it like every day. Why? They were perfectly happy with cleaning it every 6 months before, and they were no longer happy doing it every 6 months because expectations like almost immediately changed. You could have a clean rug every day, therefore you needed a clean rug every day. Same thing happened with laundry. So if you had to wash clothes by hand, you rewore the same dirty clothes over and over again until it got so bad that you have to wash them, because washing clothes by hand is hard. I used to do a lot of traveling back in the day, I still do occasionally, And there've been places where, you have to wash laundry by hand. Not a fan. Not a fan at all. And in those places, people tend to own fewer clothes and rewear the same clothes for multiple days. And everybody smells bad. So you just you ignore it, you get used to it really quickly, right? When you have a washing machine, you can now just wash your clothes after every wear. Well, not necessarily everywhere. Like maybe your underwear you change daily, and maybe your jeans you change like once a week or something. So depending on like the kind of clothing it is, you might wash it more or less frequently. But you're gonna wash it a lot more often than if you were washing by hand. And we now own a lot of clothes. We now expect to be wearing fresh underwear every day, fresh socks every day, a fresh undershirt every day, right? Because we can. And if we don't, we wear the same clothes over and over, they get itchy and scratchy and stinky. We're uncomfortable with it. We don't like it. And when other people rewear their clothes, they get stinky and we notice it and we don't like it. And it becomes like it's no longer acceptable for us to wear dirty clothes over and over again. And if we do wear dirty clothes over and over again, it's usually a sign of depression or something else going on in your life because we can afford to have more clothes. So we buy more clothes and we have labor saving devices that make it easier to wash clothes. So we wash more clothes. And the total time we spend is probably about the same. So if you did like washing once a week by hand and you would wash like as much as you could get to like realistically, by hand, uh, you would still be spending time. You might be doing it more often. You might be doing more loads. Um, and yay, and you got more clothes. So, and also you're now folding and putting everything away because you have more clothes to put away. You have more clothes to gather up and sort by color and everything. So there's actual work involved in doing laundry, but the work has changed from just scrubbing to carrying all the laundry around, sorting it, putting it away, hanging it up, all the other things that you do with laundry. It's a lot easier than scrubbing, but the total amount of work you spend is going to be about the same. And that shows up in the statistics. Work gets easier, so we do more work. And this is happening, in a corporate space too. So for example, if you can answer twice as many customer questions as you could before, you get like twice as much done. Your customers expect you to answer twice as many questions as you did before. They are going to expect to spend less time waiting for an answer. They're going to expect a better answer, and they're going to ask you more questions because the answer comes faster. And if you don't do this, they will move on to your competitor who will. So if you say, oh, we're now answering customer questions twice as fast, we can lay off half of our customer support team. Yeah, no, that's not going to work because your customers are now expecting twice as much from you because you're twice as fast, you're twice as good. And if you don't deliver, somebody else will. So you have to like keep up that pace. So very interesting dynamic that's happening here. And and how it plays out is that that's why we're not seeing massive layoffs. And when we do see, I mean, we see the news reports of the massive layoffs, but we don't see the numbers of the massive layoffs. So, which is like super hard to believe, right? But yeah, it's what's happening, right? Um, so yeah, so again, if you're worried about AI taking your job, uh, AI will change your job, but it won't necessarily mean that you will be working less. And there's some statistics coming out already that people in jobs that are heavily influenced by AI, where the AI is supposed to like take away a whole bunch of tasks, they are now working harder and longer than they were before because their companies now expect more out of them. And if the companies jump the gun and laid people off, now no longer are you stuck doing all that extra work that AI is creating for you, but now you're doing the jobs of the people who are laid off as well. So it's actually like a double whammy. And companies who are laying people off are going to feel that, right? Unless they're in one of those sectors that is being disrupted by AI, like you're a telephone switchboard operator, right? And those jobs are going to be moving somewhere else. So very interesting thing to keep an eye out for. Um, and yeah, and I'm writing about this, so it's fascinating. So I'm seeing it play out with me like right now. So on the one hand, from some of the companies that I work for, I'm hearing about layoffs, cutbacks, but also from other companies, I'm seeing more work coming in. So yeah, so very weird kind of dynamic happening right now that's actually playing out in my life. So yeah, interesting times. I mentioned I was working on a story about measuring ROI. And this is the return on investment. So how much money are companies actually making from AI? And the numbers are all over the board. Some companies are reporting that 95% of projects are failing. And like in some surveys, 90% of them are saying that it's already seeing business benefits. And you're like, what's going on? And part of the reason is that none of this stuff can be measured. And this is like another thing that's really, really hard to to kind of grasp because you think, well, this should be really easy to measure. Somebody was answering this number of customer phone calls, and now they're answering this other number of phone calls because AI is making their job faster or taking on, answering some questions on its own, right? So you can measure this. But like I said, first of all, you have that weird dynamic where when something gets easier and better, people use it more. And the amount of work, total work actually increases. And it usually kind of evens itself out. So that's like one thing that's happening. Another thing that's happening is that companies, um, in most jobs, it's really, really hard to measure productivity. So like in my company, I hire somebody because work needs to get done. And if I hire like too many people, then my department's budget is too high and the results are too low. And the bosses say, you might want to get rid of some people. And it's kind of like a gut feeling, like, how do I get rid of people? Like, is somebody slacking off at his desk? Is somebody spending all her time on personal phone calls? So it's kind of like a gut feel kind of thing, right? And companies often like don't know who's productive and who isn't, and they will just do massive layoffs. Oh, your budget is cut in half. Randomly, fire half the people or give arbitrary score to a bunch of them and fire the ones with the lowest scores. Like all sorts of like weird things that companies do. And then if if things change badly in the wrong direction, maybe hire some more people. So it's kind of this weird, kind of like feeling your way out, feeling your way along without like having like super strong numbers about the actual performance of people. So, like, how do you tell if an executive's doing well or not? Well, based on how good his business unit is or her business unit is. Is the business unit profitable or not? But how do you actually like track that executive's productivity? So they're using AI now. Uh, like, are their decisions better? Are they more productive? Do you need fewer executives? Like, this is so hard to measure. And executives almost never want to be measured on the quality of their decisions. If they make a decision and it turns out badly, they're going to blame something else. And if this decision turns out well, they're going to take all the credit for it, even if maybe they have nothing to do with the success of that decision. And you're always seeing that in companies. People rise because of just dumb luck or connections, and you wind up like with totally incompetent people in areas that where they have no expertise running companies. And then you have super competent people, but then something happens and now it turns out the super competent person was just lucky. It's really, really hard to gauge how good somebody is at their job. And it's really, really hard to gauge how productive somebody else is in their job. And so when AI comes into the mix, there's no baseline to measure against. Unless you're a salesperson and have leads that you can track, or an attorney where you count every hour that you spend doing something, or you're in some other job that's very, very quantifiable, it's really, really hard to measure the actual impact of AI. So again, it's more like the gut feeling, right? Like all of our developers are using AI and they're producing more code. But we need to hire more people because now everybody wants custom software written. And they know we're using AI, so we're getting faster at producing software. So everybody's now asking us to write more software. And we have to hire extra people to make sure that software is accurate and reliable and secure and fits with our guardrails and policies and everything else. So it's actually creating more work for us, even though it's supposed to be a labor-saving thing, because the demand for all the software is increasing. So that's happening across the board. It's really, really complicated. And it's really interesting to track. But the bottom line is that, yeah, jobs aren't disappearing at all. They're getting harder. They're getting more labor intensive. The more stuff AI does for you, the more work it creates for you to do. So, yeah, that's like really interesting. And we're now seeing that happen with AI agents. So with agentic AI, the AI isn't just like helping you do a task. It's like doing the whole thing for you. Like if, instead of like helping you edit the book or suggesting, rewriting a paragraph of a book, right? It's planning the whole book for you. It's writing the whole book. It's doing like everything for you, right? And so you're like, oh, this AI is now an author, and it's done the whole job of the author. And I can just, take some time off and let the AI do my job for me, and I'm good. And again, that's not how it actually turns out. What happens if you outsource your entire writing job to the AI is that you've basically given yourself a promotion. Instead of being an author, you're now a full-time publisher. And you're managing these agentic AI systems who are the authors. And you are having to juggle like all the different things that go into running a publishing company, like the marketing. You might have marketing agents, but now you're the final boss. The buck stops with you. So the final decision is on you as to which of these marketing plans you want to go with. You have to evaluate the agents and how they're performing. You have to decide how much money you're going to invest in marketing, how much money you're going to invest in promotions and in influencers and whatever other stuff you have to do to make your book stand out, because everybody's writing AI generated books, right? So now your job has gone from being somebody who invents things and writes them down to being somebody who's managing these teams of agents that are working on financial tasks and marketing tasks and writing tasks and editing tasks and all these other things. And that's a hard job. That is a really hard job. And it's now your full-time job. And is that the job you wanted? Is that why you became a writer? Is to have that job. And you have to set up the workflows. So you're kind of like a programmer now too. And maybe it's an easier programming job than it used to be because you don't actually have to know what all the commands are called and how they're spelled and all the punctuation and stuff. But you're still managing software projects. And that's also a hard job. You have to decide what the AIs are going to do and how they're going to do it and what level of quality you're happy with and how much money you're going to spend on all the individual parts of these workflows and how you're going to pull everything together. And if you have an AI agent that does that part for you, then your job gets promoted another step to whatever the next thing is above that. So you're always going to have the same amount of work. It's just the work is going to change. It's going to get more complicated. It's not going to get easier. It's going to get more stressful. And we wind up in this trap, right? Where we've gone from cleaning our carpets once or twice a year and owning one change of clothes to cleaning our carpets every single day and having to own a whole wardrobe of clothes and having to make a decision every day about what am I going to wear. And having a curated wardrobe and a personal style and all this other stuff that goes into it. When you have more than one change of clothes, you have to make different decisions that now become possible because you have a washing machine, that now become possible because clothing is cheaper and easier to produce. So it's going to be a very different world, but it's definitely not going to be a world with less work in it for us. It's just that we're going to be able to get more done with the work that we do, but it's not going to get any easier. It's going to require a lot higher level cognitive skills. So this is similar to mathematics. So if you're in grade school, you do arithmetic. And the math that you do is adding numbers together and subtracting them and multiplying them, right? And as you move up a few grades, you do less arithmetic, use a calculator for the arithmetic. But now you have to solve equations. And now you have to think about rates of change and asymptotes and proving theorems and things like that are very cognitively much more complicated, even as the calculator does the actual arithmetic for you, right? And then we have smart graphing calculators, and we have computers that do the theorems and the geometries and solving the differential equations for us, right? And at that point, you get into a new, even more complicated area of mathematics. You can now think about deeper, harder mathematical problems. And it's fascinating. I mean, it was great. I loved studying this stuff. And you have a lot more things you can study when you have these tools, but it doesn't get easier. Having a calculator does not make math easier. If you keep going in math, the math always gets harder, not easier, as you get these more tools. Now, if you don't go further in math, if you just stay at the arithmetic level, then a calculator will do arithmetic for you. But if this is a path that you want to pursue, then it just gets harder and harder. And everyone around you, and you're also competing against all the other mathematicians, and they're not sitting back and letting the calculator do the work. They're thinking up cool new stuff and using their brains and doing the hard things. And so you have to too. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I'm like rambling on these videos, and I probably want to get a little bit more focused and bit more coherent and stuff. But I mean, right now I'm just like posting what I'm kind of like thinking about and how I'm thinking about it. Um, and yeah, so I think as I get more comfortable with this and get used to being on camera and talking about these topics, I might come up with like ways to do it that's more watchable. Anyway, if you have any ideas or any advice, let me know in the comments. Um, yeah, I've got so much stuff to talk about because I've researched this. This is what I do, and I talk to like all the executives who are doing it. So I've got plenty of stuff to share if I can figure out how to get it like out of my head and like into there while being human. So um, as somebody like recently sent an article to me for a blog that I edit, and it was like fully ChatGPT generated, and it was like what's happening in field X, and the ChatGPT gave a list of the top things that happened in field X, which is like fine, right? But I'm like, yeah, we can't run this article because why would we? Anybody can get that same exact information from ChatGPT. Tell me what you think about what happened in field X. Tell me about your personal experience with X. Tell me about like your struggles with it. Tell me about the transformation it's created for you, because that's the stuff that ChatGPT doesn't know. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. What is the stuff that ChatGPT doesn't know that I can tell you? And so I'm like feeling my way out and feeling my way around. So that's why ChatGPT isn't writing my scripts or editing my videos. Because if you wanted to know what ChatGPT thinks about something, you would just ask ChatGPT, right? Right? You wouldn't need me. So what can I do that is different from what the AI can do? Um, and I think that is a question that we're all going to have to answer. What do we do that's different from what AI can do? And it doesn't have to be better. We don't have to do it better than the AI. We just have to do it different for it to matter. So a handmade mug is not necessarily better than a mass-produced one, but it's different. And that difference makes it valuable, even though maybe it's lumpy and not as good, right? It doesn't matter that it's not as good. What matters is that it's different and it stands out and it has emotional connection and it has meaning and it has context and purpose and social weight. It has differences to it than the mass-produced one does. And artists and creators of all kinds have had to figure this out, since mass production and photography has been invented. And now all the rest of us have to figure that out too. But it's doable because they have, and we can too. So, yeah, anyway, I hope everyone had a great Friday the 13th. And I am going to go and I'm going to write an article about building agentic AI platforms in the enterprise and what companies often miss when they build their AI infrastructure. All right. I'll see you guys when I see you, I guess. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll try to answer them. Bye, everybody. See you next time.